The jaguar beastman agrees that he's not stupid enough to mess with the king's guest, and irritably walks up to Russel to inform him that they need to go faster, because they're kinda busy. When Russel agrees, the guy leaps into the sky and asks him to try to keep up. As the beastman begins to fly towards where the beast king is, he secretly intends to show Russel the difference in their standards compared to human scum. But our boy soon appears behind him, commending how fast he's going. The beastman is shocked to see that our boy was able to catch up to him at his fastest speed, but he's even more shocked when Russel asks him not to hold back because of him since he can go faster than this. When they arrive at their destination, the beastman commends Russel's speed because he didn't expect a human to be able to catch up to him. Finally, he asks Russel if he's the best runner among humans, but Russel confesses that there are at least 30 people in his kingdom who can do what he does, and maybe around 100 in the whole continent, which breaks the beastman's pride. Focusing on the scenery, Russel is surprised that such a large city would exist in the forest, but figures it's expected of the residents of the Beast King. As they advance, he spots the great warriors of Kulil, who are at least 4th circle and above. There's such an incredibly dense fighting spirit that our boy feels like he's walking into a swamp, and this confirms his idea of only coming here after he became a 6th circle mage. Meanwhile, one of the warriors is shocked that Russel is able to fight off the fighting spirit exuded by 100 great warriors, but the Beast King soon appears and asks the warriors why they are creating trouble when the king had told them not to. Muya soon ascends the throne and tells Russel that it's nice to see him, calling him a human kid and introducing herself. Our boy notices the strength of the Beast King and guesses that she's probably on par with Master Daria. However, he wasn't expecting her to be female. She soon asks him why he's staring, and Russel greets respectfully, introducing himself as a warlock of the Flame Tower and pleading for understanding regarding his ignorance of beastman etiquette. After she hears that, Muya looks away and says there's no need to be so formal, but it's clear that she totally liked that. She soon asks the human what brings him from such a faraway continent to Kulil, so Russel explains that he's looking for where the River of Ice and the River of Flames overlap. When the warriors hear that, they consider it unthinkable that a mere outsider who's not even a warrior wants to go into the divine regions. The king quickly shuts them up, and Russel asks if no outsider has ever gone into the divine regions, or if there's a rule that makes it impossible for outsiders to go in. Muya notices how Russel knows how to see situations for what they really are, along with his fighting capabilities that are at least on par with great warriors and great discernment, which can help stimulate the growth of the beastmen, which had been stagnating. She asks him to keep talking, and Russel asks again if those who are acknowledged as warriors can enter the divine region. Upon hearing that, Muya asks him if he's saying that a human wants to attempt the warrior's trial, so Russel admits that he'll be willing to attempt the trial if that's the only legitimate way to go into the divine region. Soon after, he's told that the rules of the trial are simple. Stay alive in a canyon for 10 days. He won't be provided any food, so he'll have to procure whatever's required for his survival, and fight 5 great warriors a day while winning all the fights. Russel realizes that this exercise is to test one's mental capacity, survival ability, and skills. Also, there's a strange dark energy flowing from the canyon, so he realizes that he needs to be careful to keep his mind focused. Soon after, Muya states that it's time to enter the canyon, so they begin the warrior's trial once he takes a leap. When he lands in the canyon, he realizes the dark energy is stronger than he expected, and he remembers that he had heard this is the canyon where the corpse of Yermungandr, the snake that killed Fenrir, the first beast king, lies. Suddenly, several snakes approach him, but Russel calmly summons Pepper, who blasts them away with his fire breath. After Pepper does that, Russel tells him that they're having snake meat for dinner. On the last day of the trial, Muya is impressed by our boy's incredible mental strength and skill. The fire Russel also made using magic has been burning for 5 days straight, and despite fighting 20 great warriors, he's not injured at all. Muya realizes she can't hold herself back after seeing such a delicious dish in front of her. Against the will of her warriors, she jumps into the canyon, and Russel protests that it's a little unfair that she has to join in the fight, but she explains that her blood started boiling after seeing someone so strong. Technically, she's also a warrior of the Beastmen, so she proposes that he'll pass the warrior's trial if he can withstand 5 of her attacks, since she's not shameless. Russel likes the idea that he doesn't have any more today if he endures 5 of her attacks, but the Beast King is definitely way harder to fight than the great warriors. Since that's what she wants, he decides to oblige, but he quickly activates his draconification. The warriors are surprised by the sudden burst of energy and wonder if Russel wasn't human. Meanwhile, the Beast King is intrigued by the display of his full strength, because she'll be able to enjoy the moment, even though it won't last long. Her comments make Russel tense as she charges towards him. She excitedly swings her weapon to pierce through him, but our boy quickly protects himself with a shield. As expected of a super being among super beings, his hands soon become full just trying to deflect her attacks. Eventually, he decides to stop her movement with ice energy to buy some time, so he blasts her with some ice energy, but she just holds on and excitedly laughs. Although Muya finds it interesting, she digs into the ground and pulls out a rock to block his attack. When the ice blast stops, she confesses that she found his attack interesting and decides to count it as 2 exchanges where he withstood her attack. Our boy realizes that he just has to do this 3 more times, but Muya leaps towards him with her bare hands and punches him, but he manages to block with his spear. He quickly calls Pepper, who hits her with a fire blast. Regardless, Muya charges through the fire and kicks Russel several feet into a rock. Russel quickly gets back up and uses his lightning ring to summon the lightning hammer. When Muya sees it, she deflects the hammer with a fist, knocking it backward. Eventually, she grabs the hammer and uses it as a weapon to smash Russel into the ground. He quickly casts another spell like the falling sun, which forces her to stop in her tracks, since she was charging towards him. Hidden inside the falling sun attack is the gay bulg spear that's supposed to finish her off if the first attack doesn't affect her, and Russel rains down both attacks. After the smoke clears up, our boy breathes heavily, so the Beast King decides to let him go since it doesn't look like he can carry on anymore. Even though she'd like to play more, she confesses that it was really fun fighting with him and gives him a passing grade as he passes out. Sometime later, Russel, who has been covered all over with bandages, violently wakes up with Pepper by his side. The Beast King, who has been standing by his side, informs him that Pepper's stuck by his side the whole time, but he becomes alarmed when he notices her undressing. He quickly uses Pepper to cover his eyes and demands to know what she's doing. Confused, she explains that she wanted to show him the passionate traces that he left on her body, and our boy becomes red, wondering when he ever did that. She suddenly throws Pepper out of the way and shows him the mark on her shoulder. Apparently, she never thought he'd make the falling sun explode using a spear, and the burn would have been much bigger if she had been even a single second later in dodging it. It seems that his last attack worked, but the wound is way too small for him to say that it worked. When Muya notices that his face is so red, she checks and confirms that he doesn't have a fever. Upon realizing it's something else, she asks him if he's like this because he wants to mate with her. She says that if that's the case, she'd consider calling him a man instead of an outsider. As Russel tries to calm her down to listen to him, she seductively advances towards him and explains that she doesn't mind taking his seed. Our boy notices her intense energy, but he quickly stops her and explains that he already has a lover whom he promised his future to. So she stops when she realizes he doesn't want to do it. Finally, Russel asks her if he can enter the divine region, so Muya states that there won't be anyone foolish enough to object after seeing his performance yesterday, and they might even be envious of his strength. Excitedly, he asks her when he can enter, and she says he can after his body is recovered, which will take at least 2 months based on what the doctor said. 3 weeks later, while Russel flies with the Beast King to the divine region, she considers it unbelievable that Russel was able to recover in just 3 weeks, but she doesn't know he was able to do so because of overload and his wizard body. Although he's thankful that she's personally guiding him to the divine region, he wonders if she doesn't have other matters to attend to since she's the king. But Muya explains that the human concept of a king is different from theirs. When they approach the divine region, she signals to him to go to the bottom of the precipice and stay just above the water. Eventually he spots a hole, and she asks him to go into it. Russel considers it surprising that there's such a space in a cave. When they get inside, she points to a water flow in the cave and explains that it is what makes the lakes inside and outside the region. The water comes from the divine region, and to enter the divine region, he must climb the river that's made from that water. She decides to stay back and let him have a go at it. When he climbs the river, he finally finds the divine region, the sacred land where the god of the beastmen resides. As he crosses the huge river, he realizes it looks pretty normal, until he reaches a point where the river has 2 colors. The mission given to him was to climb to the end of the River of Flames, so he keeps heading toward the end. It turns out that the source of the river is a volcano, but the map had said there's something in this area. When he notices a bubble coming out of the water, he realizes it would be too easy to find what he's looking for here. And the fact that there are bubbles means that it's connected to another place, which would probably be the source of the real river. He soon dives into the river and runs into another cave somewhere beneath the water. This should be the place, and Russel summons Pepper to track any magical energy that might be in the cave since it's quite dark. Pepper quickly follows a trail until they run into Ignir, the fire dragon, who is dead but whose essence greets the little master and apologizes for not being able to wait until the master arrived. The dragon displays the divine weapon, Brahmastra, and explains that he stayed in this place in order to pass down this great magic. Russel is able to feel the power of the magic even without touching it, and wonders if he'll be able to handle a power this great at his current level. Suddenly, the system notifies him that the corrupted will of the first Beast King, Fenrir, is reacting to the divine weapon, Brahmastra. He's told that Fenrir's will is manifesting, and he's asked to purify Fenrir's will. Soon after, Fenrir literally appears, and Russel is surprised that a manifestation of Fenrir would be so imposing. The beast looks more like a divine beast than a monster, but Ignir pleads with him to take the weapon. Reluctantly, Russel grabs the weapon. Suddenly he sees a vision of several warriors and giants who have come to fight against a woman. The woman promises to eradicate them all, but the giants jump toward her. Russel hopes that she's moving away from the attack, but she just looks back at him and smiles. As he wonders if she can see him, he recognizes the scales and horns on her head that seem to form a crown. Finally, he understands that the woman is the divine dragon king. Meanwhile, while fighting the giants, she creates Brahmastra, a new divine weapon with the power to kill even a god, and explains that this is to guide him in his future, to become a torch. United with the spirit of the divine dragon king, Russel in the present throws the Brahmastra at the will of Fenrir, and is surprised that it defeats it in one hit. The power of the weapon is around 8 or 9 circles. Suddenly, as Fenrir's will is purified, a man appears and introduces himself as the one who inherited the blood of a dragon, hoping to make a request of the great master of dragons. Referring to Russel, the man hands him something and asks him to pass it on to his children, and Russel recognizes it as the treasure of the beastmen and what binds them. The man hopes that Russel will remove the shackles that bind them. Soon after, the system notifies our boy that Fenrir's corrupted will manifestation has been purified, and he'll be given Brahmastra as a reward. As the weapon moves towards him, our boy can't handle the intense fire energy, and it feels like the mana veins throughout his body are burning. With his level of understanding of the fire element, he shouldn't be in this much pain. However, the things that are stimulating his mana veins are high-level magic and formulas that are almost at the 9th circle. As it courses through his body, he realizes that his brain will explode if he doesn't understand or control it properly. Shortly after, the system notifies him that Brahmastra has expanded his brain, and his understanding of Brahmastra has increased. Soon after, Brahmastra starts reconstructing his brain, and he finally collapses when the process ends. Pepper quickly runs to his side in tears, afraid that he's dead. However, the divine dragon tells him not to worry, because Russel only fainted from fatigue and will wake up soon. The divine dragon king explains that her child, Ignir, was supposed to serve him but hasn't been able to due to fate, so she asks Pepper if he will inherit his power. When Pepper looks worried, the divine dragon explains that there's no need to be surprised because he's part dragon and part spirit, so he's more than capable of inheriting this. Suddenly the power is released in the form of an egg, and the divine dragon hopes that Pepper will become the new fire dragon and journey with Russel. The divine dragon also expresses that she hopes he'll continue the bloodline of the dragons. Shortly after, Russel wakes up and notices Pepper eating something edible. Russel doesn't know what's going on, but the system soon informs him that Pepper has inherited the spirit of the fire dragon. Pepper's soon envelopes him, and the system explains that a lot of time will be needed for Pepper to digest the absorbed power and become a second-generation dragon. Shortly after, Pepper enters into a state of slumber and collapses to the ground. Russel quickly carries him out, worried that he hadn't played with Pepper more often before he had fallen into this state of slumber, unsure of what will become of her. When he gets outside, he meets Moya, who suspects that he's found something incredible from his expression. He hands her the object that Fenrir gave him, and in shock, she asks him to tell her every detail about how and where he got that. Shortly after, Moya explains that what he's holding is called the Moon Crystal, and asks him if he knows why the beastmen are stuck on Kulil Island. Russel guesses that it's because they need to stay together to protect themselves since they're small, but Moya calls bull since even the long-eared archers, referring to the elves, and the earth stumps, referring to the dwarves, are on the continent, and they're stronger than they are. Apparently they're staying on this island so they could find the item he's holding that belonged to the first beast king, Fenrir. Russel wonders if that's what the dragon meant by shackles, so he asks Moya why they're so obsessed with finding this item, and Moya refers him to a term called beastification. Apparently, it's an ability that increases one's fighting abilities by bringing out the beast engraved into one's blood. On nights when the full moon rises, they can use moon beastification, which is 3 times stronger than beastification, but this moon crystal allows them to use it without a full moon. After their discussion, Russel asks her for a favor to spar with him once a day before he leaves. Shortly after, they have their spar and Russel is thrown into a rock somewhere. Moya jokingly asks him why his breathing is already getting rugged when she's just getting started. She tells him to get it together because he won't be able to satisfy the one with whom he shares a promised future if he's this weak, so he quickly gets up for his next move. He casts an original construct, proclaiming that he's still full of energy and firing 5 gay bulg spears at her in a move called the Magic Spear of Death. Moya loves his energy as she blocks the 5 spears that soon explode massively. After the smoke clears, Russel realizes that Muya is a total monster, and wonders if it's impossible to fight against her without using draconification. Soon after, Muya approaches him and asks if he's already done, suggesting that he transforms like he did before. However, Russel explains that he's training to practice his basics, which would be pointless if he used draconification, but Muya doesn't care since it isn't any fun for her. Suddenly, she tells the human male, referring to Russel, that she would like to request that he become their bridge to the world, since she's going to leave the island with the beastmen within the next few years, as they've found the crystal moon. Russel doesn't understand exactly what she's asking him to do, because he doesn't have the authority to give them a part of the Endymion territory, but she angrily clarifies that she only wants a small piece of the land that would be sufficient for them to live in. Upon realizing something, Russel excitedly asks the Beast King if she plans to join Endymion, which she affirms, even stating that she's willing to bow to his king and proposing to help them during territorial conflicts and wars too. It's intriguing that she'd say that, and Russel is stoked to hear the news. Sometime later, inside the Endymion palace, the king and some prominent people gather to discuss allowing the migration of the beastmen from Kulil Island. The finance minister protests that there are more than 200,000 of them, and they won't be able to find a place that could feed and shelter that many people. However, the military minister protests that even half of their number joining them in wars means many more soldiers, which they can't ignore. There are conflicting opinions about this, so the king tells them that's enough. The king clarifies that this is a vain discussion since they don't have enough information, so he proposes that Russel, the future husband of the princess, speak up, as he's met them and spent time with them. Finally, Russel narrates that the beastmen were mostly aggressive, and their culture isn't so different from Endymion's, as much as it would require creating space for them. He believes that allowing them will allow the growth of a strong army, which will help them benefit from this deal. Finally, Jillian asks how powerful Muya is. Russel explains that, based on his standards from sparring with her, he'd say she's someone 3 levels above McCrae Hughes. When Princess Hecate hears that the Beast King is female, she becomes tense. Emilia, the White Tower Master, soon steps up and asks Russel if she didn't just seem strong because he's weak. Jillian quickly asks the White Tower Master kid to calm down, and Emilia calls him a fool that's obsessed with a kid, asking him why he thinks he's calling a kid. Regardless, Jillian just laughs and states that the Beast King isn't a mage but a warrior, so it's only fitting that he should be the one to handle this, since he's trained in aura. Eventually, Emilia angrily concedes, and Jillian fires a drove of weapons at Russel to see how he'll deal with it, and our boy is surprised that he could make several hundred weapons with the manifestation of his aura. It's clear they'll be full of holes if he tries to block them, so he decides to deflect them instead, and it shocks Jillian that he's able to deflect his aura. Jillian notices Russel has grown stronger and wonders if he received some form of enlightenment during his duels with the Beast King. After Russel passes the test, Sir Jillian apologizes to His Majesty for the ruckus he caused to assess the situation, and explains that Russel's evaluation can be trusted considering his skills. Based on that, His Majesty states that all that's left now is to figure out the Beast King's true intentions, to know whether she's serious or up to something. Russel quickly affirms that it's probably the truth and exposes the necklace the Beast King had given him as a gift, made from her canine tooth, which shows her sincerity. After getting more information, the king proposes that they discuss the matter further in the future. He also states that, although this is just the first meeting, if there are no unexpected variables, the land of Endymion will be receiving 200,000 beastmen. Also, he states that this will be considered a great contribution from Count Russel. When Russel protests that he only happened to stumble upon this and didn't do so to gain recognition, the king insists that it's a contribution, and he hereby bestows the title of Count Morning Star on Russel, and also grants him the right to take one item from the Imperial Vault. Finally, he hopes that Russel will continue being a star that shines for Endymion, as his title suggests. By the way, an item from the Imperial Vault is worth at least billions of gold, and Russel considers it too grand a reward, but also wonders if there's some other purpose to the Majesty giving him this reward. While he's deep in thought, Master Daria asks him to come to the reception room after the meeting is over, because the Majesty has something urgent to discuss with the two of them. Sometime later, Russel shows Hecate a jade hairpin that he heard women use to fix their hair in place when they tie it up. Hecate affirms that she's also heard about the hairpin, but asks him why he bought it. And our boy confesses that he thought it would look nice on her. She also confesses that hearing those words makes her feel happier than the gift, so he helps her put it on. While he's doing it, Hecate reminds him that he mentioned that the Beast King is female, and asks what kind of relationship he has with her. Our boy stutters and drops the hairpin, then explains that he simply dueled with her, as he explained before. Hecate picks up the hairpin and says, "That's strange because that doesn't explain why she gave him a necklace made from her canine tooth." Russell becomes afraid as Hecate corners him with the hairpin, and he realizes he's screwed. Sometime later, when Russell manages to get free, he realizes he wasn't expecting Hecate to get jealous. Her reaction makes him feel slightly wronged but happy at the same time, and he was only lucky that the king came at the nick of time. The king had shared shocking information about how he's been looking at the reports about the Raymond household for a while, and has discovered that the report claiming the territory of the Raymond household was returned to the national treasury was falsified. It's more accurate to say that it was taken back, and that's what drove Russell out of his territory. The king apologizes for his negligence and vows to apologize to him and his household, but Russell begs His Majesty to raise his head. Suddenly, our boy recalls how Hughes had tagged him a fool for thinking it was the Empire that killed his father. If the report document submitted to the king was manipulated, then that means someone in Endymion is the culprit behind his father's death. Hecate places her hand on his in a bid to comfort him, and that makes Russell feel better, even though he acknowledges that it can't make up for what he's gone through. The king hands him a permit to enter the Museum Louvrium's 6th floor basement. Russell soon heads there and plans to visit the Imperial Vault after. He soon reaches the Museum Louvrium's 5th floor basement, which people think is the deepest floor but has a hidden floor below. The 6th floor basement stores the Magic Tower Master's view on magic as well as information on their originalities, and only those who have the king's direct permit can enter it. After opening the permit given to him, teleportation magic is activated that sends him into the 6th floor basement, which has thousands of books in it. Apparently he can only stay here for 48 hours, so it'll be impossible to read everything within that time. Also, it's a space where magic can't be used, so he can't use image magic and will have to stick with the best titles to read. Soon after, he finds a book called The Roar of the Dragon by an author named Ervin Rudgen, who was the capital's Yellow Tower Master 400 years ago, which intrigues him. He quickly starts reading and learns that Ervin transformed the 5th circle magic earthquake into a 7th circle magic. He did this by gathering mana that's dispersed deep underground, focusing it on the surface, and then releasing it with an impact wave in the shape of a fan. While studying, the system soon informs him that his understanding of advanced earth element magic has slightly increased and has reached the limit. Another screen pops up with a mission to increase his understanding of advanced grade earth magic beyond its limit into mastery grade earth magic, with rewards of advanced grade mana stones and 2 footprints of the earth dragon. He's surprised to see the footprint of the dragon as a reward, because he was lost on how to find the traces of other dragons after he encountered the silver and fire dragon. The only problem now is that he doesn't know how to increase his understanding of earth elements to mastery grade, and he decides to just try memorizing the information in the books. After going through several books, it's clear that memorizing isn't helping, and he suddenly remembers that he was told that he could bring 1 book out of this place after these 48 hours expire. After considering which to bring with him, he notices a book being held by a nearby statue, and wonders why it's not placed on the bookshelves. He soon goes up to check it out and finds out it's a book called The Transcendent Dream, authored by the Founding Mage. The Founding Mage refers to the founding father of the Raymond household, Russel Raymond. Moreover, Transcendent Dream is a magic that symbolizes Luther, and the stone statue is obviously modeled after him. Russell wonders if Luther had prearranged for him to find this, and Master Daria suddenly teleports into the room. She soon starts to nag about how his face looks after not sleeping for 48 hours, especially when she had always told him how important rest is for his body. After she's done talking, she recognizes the book with him. She explains that Transcendent Dream goes beyond the human form and replays magic in its essence. It's magic that goes beyond the boundaries of the world. Based on the stories that were passed down, the Founding Mage transformed into a large tsunami in the middle of the sea with a huge storm going on, and was also said to have become lightning itself in the heavy rain. To have such fresh ideas and to turn them into reality alone makes Transcendent Dream a highly valued magic. Russell is impressed by how highly the master speaks of it, so she informs him that she won't stop him from trying to learn it, but advises him to be careful because Transcendent Dream is 8th circle magic, but it also goes beyond it. If something goes wrong, he could be devoured by it, so Russell takes the caution. Shortly after, they both head to the Imperial Vault on the outskirts. On their way, Master Daria explains that they're going to the first treasure vault first. Apparently the first treasure vault has accessories, the second treasure vault contains weapons, and the third treasure vault holds all other types of treasures. When they get to the spot, the master tells him to observe as she creates beautiful encrypted magic circles, comprised of tens and hundreds of magic traps, which he wouldn't have been able to unlock if she hadn't come here with him. Soon after, the river divides into 2 and exposes a stairway that leads downward. As they climb down, Daria explains that he can only bring 1 item out of this place, the same as in the museum. While he affirms her instructions, his ring suddenly begins to release lightning. The cloudy ring starts to discharge on its own. Differently from when our boy is fighting with someone, and it feels as if it just met a longtime friend that it has missed very much. Miss Daria explains that it seems that the other half of his ring lies in the vault, which would mean it's a two-part artifact. Artifacts are usually single items that fulfill their own function, but there are artifacts that exist that require another half for it to display its full power, just like his golden mask. Also, most of the mission rewards that he's gotten that are artifacts related to dragons seem to have another half. Suddenly, the ring shines a streak of light to show where the other half could be, and Russell wonders what artifact could make the ring so desperate. When they follow the trail, they find an artifact known as the Jade of Clouds, which has the special ability to control the weather. Apparently, there are less than 10 mages on the continent that can control the weather, because climates are very difficult to control and learn. Master Daria explains that climate control is definitely a big advantage, but carries a great risk of factors like great mana consumption and long casting time. However, because he had felt a similar pull when he held Brahmastra, Russell chooses the Jade of Clouds, even though something might be better to choose in terms of efficiency. Once he picks up the artifact, it suddenly disintegrates and is absorbed by the ring. Soon after, the system informs him that he has obtained a wing fragment of the Cloud Dragon. Apparently, the Cloud Dragon controls the climate and the clouds and is a mutant lightning dragon that is born with very rare abilities. Russell is shocked to learn of a mutant lightning dragon, because the lightning element is known to be a spin-off of the fire element in the world of academics, because it's an element that's outside of the typical 5 elements. As such, lightning mages are rare and more recognized, which makes the value of this incomparable to anything out there. Actually, the true power of the Jade of Clouds is more than weather control. Eventually, Daria grows impatient to see him try out the powers of the artifact that has met its other half, so they head out. When they get out, Russell uses the Cloudy Ring's somersault form and jumps into the sky, but is able to jump really high, more than is normally possible with just one jump. It's more than just simple flight magic because it's faster, and he doesn't need to reduce his speed when changing directions. However, it has great mana consumption, so he soon starts to get tired. The next move he tries is the Cloudy Ring weather form to summon a lightning cloud. As the master watches, she mentions that he would be able to destroy a small castle easily with that much power. But when he suddenly passes out in midair and falls into the water, she realizes he doesn't have enough mana for that. Sometime later, Russell finally wakes up and heads to the Mage Academy Society. Everywhere hurts, so he decides he'll only use the Cloudy Ring when necessary for the time being, as he prepares to carry on with his mission to increase the limit of his advanced Earth-grade magic into Mastery-grade Earth magic. Since the Yellow Tower is the most well-versed place in Endymion when it comes to Earth magic, he starts by looking for 6th Circle mages and above of the Yellow Tower. Soon after, he finds the perfect person and quickly goes to see him. He soon reaches the office of Elder Spiegelman and apologizes for not coming to visit often, but the Elder replies that it's fine. The Elder detects that he's now a 6th Circle mage, when he was just a 5th Circle mage during their mission in the Temple of Mirrors. Soon after, Russell explains that he wants to get advice about Earth magic that he read about in the 6th floor basement, and Spiegelman is glad to help him with it. Later at night, at his house, the Archduke writes a letter to inform an ally about how they've won a lot of people over, and the weapon manufacturing is also proceeding smoothly. Apparently, they won't need to worry about the military provisions either, and all that's left is to wait for the right time, and the Endymion throne will become his. Shortly after, he gets an unexpected visitor who apologizes for visiting at a late time. From the person's green eyes, the Archduke suspects that it's Karen, and eventually confirms that it's truly him since this is their first time meeting in person. Sharon soon explains that he has come to show the Archduke the sample of the time that he's wanted so much. The Keystone of Magic Sealing. The Keystone of Magic Sealing is a seal that blocked off the gates of Tartarus for a long time. However, the Archduke is not impressed by the size of the stone brought, because it won't be able to stop the masters of Endymion. A purple aura breaks out around the Archduke as he protests that he wasn't promised a mere stone like this. And Karen realizes that the Archduke still has the purple energy of the royal family despite being chased away to the borders. Sharon explains that in the old war that took place between the gods and giants, the Gigantomachy, the gods that emerged victorious after a long drawn-out war sealed hundreds of giants and monsters in Tartarus, and hundreds of stakes were required in order to seal that many giants who possess transcendental strength. If they can excavate even 2 of those stakes, they'll be able to immobilize the masters of the Blue Tower and the Flame Tower. Sharon assures that the quality of excavation is good and fast, so they'll be able to find a real stake soon enough. It soon occurs to the Archduke that Karen had only brought a sample to show their progress, and this is not the final product. He pledges to Charon that he'll certainly help them kill Daria once he obtains the throne, but they'll be the ones who will face his wrath if they don't keep their promise. Charon affirms the terms and leaves, and the Archduke considers that it's a lie that these pagans joined hands with him only to kill Daria. It seems to him that they intend to pull a stunt. But it won't matter, because a dog that has completed its hunt only awaits to be thrown away. Meanwhile, Spiegelman is overwhelmed by the fact that Russel piled up many questions for him again, after only 2 days have passed since he replied to 40 of his questions. Each of the questions is insightful, and it shows that Russel is a hard worker and not only a genius.